If you've been intrigued by what you've been seeing on this channel and are considering moving to Saipan, if you'd like a sunnier, simpler, slower lifestyle while still being part of the US, then start with the Saipan Living Relocation Guide, an A to Z reference of everything you'll need to adjust to life here on Saipan, Tinian, or Rota. Order here on YouTube, on Amazon, or at saipanliving.com. Then consider a phone or Zoom consultation where you can ask any question at all to plan your move to Saipan. Then when you're ready to take the leap, you can sign up for a reconnaissance tour before you move, or a relocation tour. Visit different neighborhoods, see what life is like, get your paperwork in order, your PO box, your ID, so you can hit the ground running. As a bonus, if you sign up for any tour or consultation, you'll get a copy of the Fast Track Kit that has all the forms and documents and applications you need to start your residency. My name is Walt Goodridge. Let's make your move to Saipan simple, fast. All right, everyone. Welcome to the Discover Saipan channel, and we're back. So my name is Walt Goodridge, and welcome to the channel. And today we'll be discussing life on Saipan and answering your questions. So just a few administrative items before we get started. The live stream works much better if you participate. So I'm here to answer any questions you might have about relocating to Saipan, about discovering the history and the mystery of these beautiful islands. So please participate, ask your questions. This will get us going and heading on the right track. Okay, so let's get a few things out of the way. Okay, as usual, as I always say, ask any question at all that you like. You can, it can be personal, it can be business, can be family, it can be cultural. As far as personal questions, I cannot be offended or embarrassed, so ask any question at all. But keep in mind that I may not answer every question on a public forum like YouTube. So there may be certain questions that are better left unsaid or answered off the record. So keep that in mind. Okay. As I always say, not every truth need be known. Some of the good as well as some of the bad might be best kept a little secretive to preserve it for the rest of us. All right. So keep that in mind. If you do have specific questions, then you can ask at walt@discoversaipan.com, and I'll do my best to answer them. I also offer a consultation and relocation tours in case you're interested. And if you're watching this video after the actual live stream, feel free to actually put your questions in the comments section. I will compile all of them and answer them in the next live stream. So with that in mind, let's address something that was brought up during the last live stream that I now have the definitive answer to it. Someone had brought up the question of filling out customs forms flying in from Guam. And so I just did a recent trip to Guam, a day trip, and I now have some answers for you. So yes, coming in from Guam, you will need to complete a customs form to come into Saipan. And as we discussed before, the industry and the entire world, for that matter, is moving towards making everything digital, making everything electronic. So whereas in the past you were able to complete the form on the plane in actual paper form, now you are required to do it electronically. So most people will then complete it using their smartphones. But if you do not have access to a smartphone, there is another option. And sensibly, if you are coming in from Guam, you'll need to go to Guam EDF, as in electronic declaration form, and it's guamedf.landing.cards, and you'll be able to complete the form there and have a QR code on your phone that can be scanned when you get to the when you get to the customs desk on Guam. Now, if you weren't able to complete the form using a smartphone, as I was not, then there is a kiosk in the baggage claim area at the Guam airport. And I think there's probably just one or two, since most people, as I said, are doing it on their phones. But you'll be able to complete the um, information with this little kiosk, and then it will print out a QR code, a paper QR code that you'll then be able to submit to the border and the customs and border officer. So that's the answer for that. And now coming back into Saipan, the same is required. And the website that you would go to on your phone would be travel.mp, and you'd fill out the form there. And again, you'd have the QR code on your phone. And when I landed on Saipan, returning from Guam, I forgot to check whether there was a similar kiosk in the baggage claim area. I suspect there must be. So I'm going to say yes, there is, for those of us who may not be able to or may not want to fill it out on a smartphone. So that's the answer to that question. Yes, the customs and customs declaration form is required, and it's now electronic, but there is a paper option, but you'll still have to complete it at a kiosk on a touch screen and get your QR code and then submit that. Okay, so just wrapping that one up from last week's live stream. Okay, is Cap 1587 asks, is Rota cheaper than Saipan? Depends on in what regard. For those of you who are not aware, there are 15 islands that comprise the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, the CNMI. And of those 15 islands, 3 are officially inhabited: Saipan, Tinian, and Rota, with population of about 44,000. And then on Tinian is 3,000 roughly, and then Rota is roughly 2,000. So things are a little quieter on Rota, but they could also be more expensive because there's an additional shipping charge. So, for example, gas here on Saipan might be $5.50, $5.99 a gallon. On Tinian, it might be 6 cents or 7, and then on Rota, it might be 8 or as much as $9 a gallon. I haven't been to Rota, so I don't know the exact price, but if someone is watching this who is familiar with the prices on gas prices on Rota, you can put it in the comments. As far as cheaper, I am fairly certain that certain things may be a little harder to get retail wise, but lifestyle, I would say it's more remote. Possibly not cheaper. It might actually be cheaper for some things on Saipan. But good question. Hope that helps a little bit. More information on your relocation package, please. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, W. Sigona asked, how much is a number one meal at McDonald's? Sir, I'm going to assume it's a sir. Sir, have no idea. I rarely go into McDonald's. I only step in if a friend is going there and I'm accompanying them. But I have no idea what the price is. If anyone is watching who knows, you can let me know. I may or may not step inside to verify that for you, because I am a vegan, and I wouldn't want anyone to take a photo of me in a McDonald's and then spread rumors to defile my reputation. Okay. Mark Lundegren, may we assume the CNMI customs procedure applies to all flights, whether from Guam or elsewhere? Yes. However, there will probably be, well, if you're coming from Guam, you don't have to go through the immigration desk. The only thing I went through was the customs to declare if I had any fruits and vegetables, that sort of thing. So a flight coming in from Guam wouldn't be subject to immigration because that's handled on Guam. However, flights coming in to Saipan from Korea, from China, Hong Kong, those would be subject, or Manila, through an international flight, those would be subject to immigration as well as customs. All right. Next, David Parker 2173 asks, are pomegranates and coconut oil cheap there? All right. So I uh, pomegranates are cheaper. Yes, they are grown locally here. So typically during the season, you'll be able to get them at the Garapan market. That's the government-run farmers market. And you can get them at the Sabalo market, which is the vendors, independent vendors, farmers market every Saturday morning. So yes, those are cheaper. As far as coconut oil, unfortunately, the coconut oil that I have to buy, I buy it at Costco, Price Costco, the Joten Superstore, and that's $35 for a Kirkland 1 gallon, I believe, tub. And I buy that because it's even though it's probably pasteurized or boiled to some degree, it is touted as virgin coconut oil. So that's what I'm looking for. To get virgin coconut oil on Saipan, however, there are no big companies that produce it. So it's usually small vendors who might sell 16 ounces or so at the Sabalo market. And that tends to be a little pricier if you want it made locally. And if you do make it locally, and if you have someone who's willing to make it for you, then please make sure, if you're a purist like I am, that it's cold pressed and not boiled. Many people here make their own coconut oil, but they boil it. And if you want it cold pressed without the effects of boiling, then you'll have to specify that as well. But to answer your question, pomegranates are available, and they're as cheap as they're going to get. And coconut oil is available, but at a little premium because they're made by local vendors. All right. Okay. All right. Now, let's go to some of the questions. Uh, P. Nicolay asked, what banks are on Saipan, and is there a Bank of America? No, your banking choices are a bit limited as far as physical banks here on Saipan. There is Bank of Saipan, there is Bank of Guam, First Hawaiian, and First Hawaiian Bank, and Bank of Hawaii. And I believe there's one other, I can't remember the name. I think it's more of a commercial bank. So your choices are limited. So those are the only banks that have physical locations. However, you are free to use any banks, online banking, for example, Capital One, or have your banking at fidelity.com, or companies, online companies like that. So I hope that answers your question. Okay, and John Doe 4164 asked during the last live stream, I was wondering specifically if you know the flight times and maybe the cost to the Philippines approximately. I understand it changes. All right, so your best bet is actually to go online and go to united.com and check out the prices, because those may vary depending on certain situations unique to your location, your IP address. However, if I wanted to get to the Philippines, for example, first I would fly to Guam. So that would be a 30-minute flight. And then from Guam, I would fly to Manila, and that would be 3 hours and 55 minutes roughly to 4 hours. So hope that answers your question. And the best time to visit Saipan, if you're interested in, let's say, cooler weather, then maybe after rainy season. Rainy season is from July to September, October. So anytime from November, December, January, February is typically cooler. However, it is in the past, those months typically coincided with the Lunar New Year. So those tended to be a little busier busier times of year to travel. But in terms of cooler weather, then perhaps later in the year, early in the spring, in the winter. For those of us who time our trips to get the best fruits, then summertime would be better to catch mango season and papayas and that sort of, and seneguelas and that sort of thing. All right, let's see. We have an indigenous population of Chamorros and Carolinians, and the last census in 2020 has the total CNMI population at close to 40, between 44 and 48,000. I think it was 48,000 in 2020, and now it has dropped to about 44,000. But we have an indigenous population of Chamorros and Carolinians. We have Pacific Islanders. We have Bangladeshis. We have Filipinos. We have Chinese. We have Thais. We have Japanese, Koreans, and mainlanders. But the mainlanders are not, I would say, I think it was less than 10%. So there are there are many around, but they're not the majority population. If you're interested in meeting many mainlanders, then here you'd probably meet more people from the Philippines and the Pacific Islands than you would mainlanders. If you're looking to get away from mainlanders, then this is a place that you might want to consider. As some people have told me that one of the things they like about Saipan is that it's not the mainland and that they can get away from whatever mindset they associate with that. Um, okay, okay. Next, now this is an interesting one. Okay, someone asked if um, Social Security benefits and pension income are taxable on Saipan. And the answer that I was able to find was Social Security benefits are usually exempt from the CNMI earnings tax, but pension income is generally taxable. All right, so Social Security benefits are exempt, but pension benefits are taxed. Now, let's see. Um, that's something, a couple of exceptions. Military disability retirement pays for personal injury or sickness, those are also not included in taxable income. Military pay is taxable. Retirement plans, distributions from other retirement plans are also included in taxable income. So the ones that are generally exempt are military disability, retirement pay, and Social Security benefits are exempt. All right, hope that helps. Okay, now another question that I found interesting has to do with getting a driver's license here on Saipan. I'll find that in a second. Okay. Uh, all right. Yes, Cap, many people are actually, when I do my consultations for people who are considering relocating, one of the first questions I ask is, what is it that you're looking for? Or what is it that you're trying to escape? So typically, there are people who are moving to Saipan, moving to the other side of the world, moving to Guam, moving to Thailand, moving to the Philippines, Vietnam, Cambodia, in search of something or to flee something. And it's important to know what your motivation is. If you're looking for a calmer lifestyle, if you're looking for a little friendlier lifestyle, then this side of the world I found is amenable to that. If you're looking for the same perks and benefits you're used to in the mainland, then this would not be the place. So it's many people. I've run into people who have come here and who are looking to eat at McDonald's, or they're looking to live exactly the same lifestyle that they lived in the States, but just in a warmer climate. And this would not be the place to do that. to a certain degree, you can replicate a lot of what you're used to, but in many instances, you are not. And I go into those in some of my consultations and in the book, The Saipan Living Relocation Guide, so you can prepare yourself and have realistic expectations for when you move. Okay, next interesting question that Blender Beetle asked. I've really been enjoying your videos. Thank you for that. Thanks for putting that information online. Okay, I'm considering relocating to Saipan, but I don't have a driver's license and I never learned to drive. Always had other siblings driving and then moved to a country with mass transit. Would you happen to know if there is a driver's ed program available for adults, and how long would one have to live on Saipan before being able to get a license? I'll answer the last question first. There is no minimum amount of time that you have to live on Saipan in order to get a license. In fact, if you're coming here with a license, you can use your mainland license to drive here, no problem at all. If you decide to get a local license, which can be helpful to show your your permanent residency here on the island, then you are now required to surrender your mainland license. That was not always the case, but I just found out that that is now the case, maybe for the last couple of years. So when I first came here, I had my New York license and my CNMI license at the same time. But I am now aware that if you are coming here with a license, that you'll have to surrender that if you plan to get a CNMI license. But there's no real requirement for you to do so, as far as I know. Now, getting to your question about schools, as far as I know at one point we had as many as 3, and then over the years that dropped as the population dropped. So there was one a few years ago. There was a bill that was in the Senate, or I guess to enact making driver's ed in the schools, in the public school system, mandatory as well, because the one commercial driver's ed company that existed was charging upwards of $300 per person, and that would be out of the range of many folks who are interested in teaching their kids to drive. So what tends to happen is people tend to teach their nephews, their sons, their daughters directly within the household. I myself just taught a youngster how to drive as well, and he got his license. But as far as commercial, I am not 100% certain, but I'm sure there has to be at least one that's still in business. I will look into that and find out. But your best bet might be, if you're here, to find a friend who can teach you. But good question. I will look into that and let you know. So yes, I believe there is one driver's ed, a commercial company that you can go to learn to drive. I'll see if I can get the name for that. You can email me at Walt@Discover Saipan, and we'll keep in touch that way. All right. Okay. Now let's get to some of your questions. Okay. Are there tax preparers to help transplants navigate the CNMI tax code after becoming bona fide residents? I am sure there are. I do my taxes. I've always done my taxes myself, but in the relocation fast track that I offer, I do share most of the forms that you would need to complete. There's the 1040 CM, and there's the NMI-A, Schedule A for the Northern Mariana Islands. And by taking a look at those, you'll be able to see how the income is separated. You separate your income into two categories: income that is sourced outside of the CNMI, and income that is sourced within the CNMI. So money that you're earning here, let's say doing tours here, that's money that's earned, that's sourced within the CNMI. And let's say you have income that's coming from an employer overseas, that's income that's sourced outside of the CNMI, and that's taxed at different rates and separated. And you'll be able to get an idea of how to complete the taxes. But to answer your specific question, yes, I am sure there are tax preparers here. And again, if you would like to email me, I can do a little research and see if I can get some names for you. Okay. So someone asked to speak a little bit more about the relocation guide. The first product that I created is something called the Saipan Living Relocation Guide, and you can get this on Amazon. You can get this on Google Books, and it gives you tax forms in here as well. But this one gives you more information about what life, adjusting to life here might be like. And that one I've updated maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So it needs another update, but it's still fairly current. Not a lot has changed in there. Um, so that one you can get on Amazon. If you don't want to use a credit card or a debit card, you can check the description of this video and you'll see links and options that you can pay by Zelle, or you can pay by PayPal, or I can send you a PayPal donation link and you can pay that way if you don't want to use your credit card on the internet. And I'll send you the PDF copies of those books as well. And then something else that I just put together it's called a Fast Track Relocation Guide. And that one has tax forms. It has the form that you'd need to complete in order to apply for permanent residence. It has the forms you'd need to apply for a PO box here in Saipan. It has the fees. It has banking fees listed. And many of these forms are available online, but so the benefit that you're paying for is the convenience of having it all in one place so you can peruse them at your leisure. All right, so those are both available. The book, Saipan Living Relocation Guide, as paperback, I believe I may have lowered the price, but $19.95 for the paperback and $9.95 for the ebook. Okay, and the Fast Track with all the forms and documents, that one is $9.95 as well. Okay, um, so make sure you ask any questions that come to mind. Let's see if anything else. So I had a little experience. Oh, by the way, as you learned in one of my previous videos, I don't use air conditioning here on Saipan, so it's a little bit warm at 9:30 in the morning. So let's see. Had a little experience coming from Guam, and I'll just use this time just to shoot the breeze for a little bit. And one of the reasons that many people go to Guam is to shop for items that they can't get here. So many times you'll see coolers of products and items that are being shipped between Guam or maybe from Tinian. But I purchased some items, some health food items that are not available here. I wanted to get Celtic sea salt. I wanted to get nutritional yeast, and some other items. So one of the stores I go to, or the main store I go to on Guam, is the Seventh-day Adventist supermarket, and it's called Simply Food. So I buy my products there, and then I bring them back to Saipan. And unfortunately, I ran into a little situation where at the last minute, I decided that I was going to check my bags because I had mayonnaise or Vegenaise, and I had olive oil, and I knew those I wouldn't be able to carry those on the plane because it exceeds the 3.5 ounce limit. And so I decided I was going to check my carry-on and avoid that issue. But when I went to check the bags, I realized that they were going to charge me $35 to check the bag. And so I decided that I wasn't going to do it. Being the cheap man that I am, I decided not to check it. But what ended up happening, so I knew once I got to the TSA desk that they would confiscate the olive oil and they would confiscate the Vegenaise, the soy-based mayonnaise. What I didn't expect was that the Celtic sea salt and the nutritional yeast also raised flags. And when they tested those, they had some sort of color coding. They poured out some of the salt, clipped it in a little container, and waited for a reaction to occur. And apparently, something in the Celtic salt and something in the nutritional yeast sent off red flags, and they confiscated those as well. So practically everything I bought on Guam, and I have photos of it sitting in the tray, um, was confiscated. My salt, my nutritional yeast, my olive oil, and my Vegenaise. So now I'm without those, and I have to now order them from online and replenish my supplies that way. So, what's our lesson for today, boys and girls? Our lesson for today is pay the $35. If you buy the cheaper ticket, as I did, just for the day trip, then apparently a check bag is an extra fee. I'm sure I had seen that I was allowed one checked bag, but at the time at the check-in desk when I went to check it in, the system told me it was $35. So anyway, I should have spent the $35 and I would have had all of my products. As it is, I lost everything. And and the sadder part is no one is going to benefit from it because I'm sure none of the folks there at the TSA station are into Celtic salt or nutritional yeast or even know what it is. But what's also interesting, and I guess I'll ask ChatGPT about this, is what is it in the Celtic salt and the nutritional yeast that may have triggered the alarm? And the fellow there who told me that it did, I asked him directly what was detected that set off the alarm, and he said he didn't know. And I told him that I didn't believe him, that I'm sure he was lying just, for security reasons. But if you guys know, if anyone has had that experience, let me know. But I'll do a search and find out what it is in the Celtic salt. I'm sure it's nothing harmful, but it's just something that they're probably not used to seeing show up on their in their systems. But it's something I'm used to. Living the lifestyle that I live, I'm used to strange looks in restaurants when I ask for bland food without MSG when I'm in China. I'm used to odd questions when I ask at restaurants what's in the food, what are the ingredients, and it seems to upset the space-time continuum, and people have to run around and ask because very few people are asking what's in the food. So I'm used to that sort of thing. So just for those of you who are also similarly afflicted with the being a health nut like I am, that's something to keep in mind. Some of your tried and true and trusted products might set off alarms at the TSA counter. All right. When moving to, let's see, Mark Klundegren asked, when moving to Saipan, do you need to have a local address in order to get on the USPS PO Box waiting list? Okay, very interesting question. And I encountered that for the first time. Typically, over the years, when people have come here, they could generally get a get on the waiting list to get a PO box here on Saipan without having secured an actual physical location. However, the last time that I went with someone, I was told that yes, they do need to have a physical address and proof of that. So perhaps a utility bill or a lease agreement showing before you can get on the waiting list. So yes, the answer to your question is technically you do, but it might also depend on which post office you go to, um, depending on maybe how long the waiting list is or the particular agent you deal with. But technically, from what I'm told, yes, you do need to have a physical address before you can get on the waiting list. But the good news is these days, because the population is a little bit less than it used to be, the waiting period is not that long. So you're not going to lose that much time between when you land, when you find a place, and when you get yourself on the waiting list. And last time I was there, a person in line before me waited 2 months before they got a PO box. All right, so the wait is not that long. It used to be as much as 6 months or more. So yes, you do need a physical address, but give it a try anyway. Once you get here, check out one of the 3 different post office locations that might be convenient for you. The one here in Chalankanoa, that's the main post office, the largest one, but there are 2 more. There's one in Garapan, or 3 more, one in Garapan, one in San Vicente, let's see, and then the one here in Chalankanoa. All right, so check out any of those, and those might be um, available. There might be boxes available, more readily available at some rather than others. So yes, apartment first, waiting list second. Yes, Mark, that would be your best bet to proceed. All right. So let's keep going. What else can we discuss? We talked about the Discover cards last time. Um, okay. So any other questions you guys have, feel free to put it in the chat. If you'd like some extra special attention, you can also try giving a super chat donation as well. That'll put a big smile on my face. All right. Okay, so what else can we talk about here? Let me know if the sound is coming through okay. Okay. Next topic. Okay, so one of the things that I've mentioned before in previous videos is the proximity of Saipan to places in the world that I like to travel to. China, Singapore, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. And as a result, living here on Saipan makes that much easier and much more affordable. So one of the things that I often suggest to people, let's say if one of the reasons you're moving to this side of the world is for relationships, is to experience different male-female interaction, then it might be good for you to have a home base here on Saipan from which you can travel to uh, other locations without necessarily needing to commit to anyone in advance. So, for example, if you live here on Saipan, you have a cheap apartment that you reside in, and you can visit the Philippines, do a little reconnaissance trip there. You can visit Thailand, do a reconnaissance trip there, come back. So you are able to scout out different locations without needing to commit to anyone in advance. So that's a major advantage that you might have being here on this side of the world. All right. Interesting. Okay. halal storyteller. Is there a halal market there? That is a very good question. I know that we do have a Muslim population here. Many of the Bangladeshis who are here, some of the folks from Sri Lanka, a few Africans are Muslim as well. Um, is there a halal market? I don't know if there is. I do know, however, that let's say certain slaughtering that does occur on the island is done according to certain halal practices. And forgive me if I mess up the terminology, but I remember hearing that from a friend of mine who runs a piggery here on the island that um, while there may not be a market, there are people here who can slaughter meats, livestock in ways that are consistent with that belief system. But that's a very good question. Haven't had that question before. Again, email me at walt@discover Saipan, and I will um, see if I can get any information on that. Okay. Okay. Very good question. Excellent. Okay. All right. Um, Someone asked an interesting question. You know, sometimes you live here, um, and you run into certain words that you take for granted and often don't look up to find out exactly what they mean. So one of the words that comes up a lot here is Chalan. So we have and they're usually describing or the names of certain villages here. Chalan Kanoa, for example, um, Chalan Lao Lao. And someone asked, Melinda asked, what's the definition of the word Chalan? I see it's used on both towns and roads. So Chalan, from what I understand, means a road or pathway or the way. So Chalan Kanoa, the road or the way or the path to Kanoa, I suppose. But yeah, so it means path or road or uh, uh, path or road. That's the best I can do. Something, there is a Chamorro dictionary, Guampedia. If you look up Guampedia and do a search on there, you can find the meaning of lots of the Chamorro words that you'll run into here on in the CNMI. But great question, Melinda. Keeps me on my toes. All right. Great, great, great. Okay. All right, guys. I want to thank you for participating. Really good session. Okay, and if there's not anything more, um, see if there's anything in general I can talk about here on Saipan. The usual stuff people ask, for example, um, what is it that keeps me here? What is it that I like about Saipan? And I've mentioned this before, but if you're new to the channel, I lived originally from Jamaica, and I lived in New York most of my life. Went to high school and college there, and started working there as a civil engineer. Worked for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for many years, but I never really felt that I fit in to the Western, the American lifestyle, the American mindset, the American worldview, and I can navigate it, I can survive in it, but it never felt, uh, it never felt real to me. If you understand what I'm saying, my sense of reality was steeped in a tropical island with a different way of viewing the world, a different way of viewing um, ourselves and our identity. So coming to America was a foreign experience in many different ways. So though I did what I needed to do in order to fit in order to succeed in school and get degrees and get a job. It was never a lifestyle that I really embraced as being my own. Um, so when the opportunity came to, but at the same time, I established businesses there. I established, my family was there, relationships with friends. And so I was ingrained in the system to a degree that made it a little difficult simply to extricate myself completely. So when Saipan came around and I was able to have somewhat the best of both worlds, where I had more of the tropical lifestyle, more of a small town personality and flavor, while still retaining the ties to the United States, that the business ties and that sort of thing, um, that was a very good deal to structure. So I'm able to live close to Asia. I'm able to live in a tropical small town in the middle of the Pacific, and uh, while at the same time maintaining my permanent resident status and my business ties to the United States. So that's one of the things that I like about living here on the island. And it's a friendlier lifestyle. It's a little more humane lifestyle here. And so and that situation has come up before. You know, people have asked, what is it about Saipan that appeals to me? And that's one of the things that I find attractive about life here on the island. So that's just a little bit of rambling. So with that, I am going to wrap up this particular session, unless you guys have additional questions. Um, let's see. Last time we did a little philosophical ranting. Let's see if we can do a little bit more before we wrap up. It might be helpful. Let's see. Thanks for bearing with me here, folks. Okay, let's see. Last time I talked a little bit about my philosophy in life, that the universe is perfect. And someone gave her an interesting reply. They said, "Thanks for your inspiration, Walt. The silver lining I always key into first is the opportunity for personal growth. And the second silver lining, which I dearly hope eventually emanates from the experiences I have and the unending growth I court, is to be a beautiful presence where my life touches the world." So I mentioned in the last video that my philosophy in life is the universe is perfect. And when something happens, I don't rail against, why it happened or who's at fault or that sort of thing. I simply assess the situation and decide what I need to do to get to the next level, regardless. One of the reasons that I believe that I don't work well in groups and work well with other people, I tend to work best by myself, is because I've encountered a dynamic in the way many people address the world. So I'll give you an example. Say you're in a group and you're in a team, and something bad happens and someone dropped the ball and you now have a crisis on your hand. What I have found is that many people, once they are aware of the crisis, they immediately shift into who is to blame, who's at fault, who did it, why did this happen, who is at fault, and they'll spend an inordinate amount of time figuring out who to blame for the situation. And I wasn't taught this, but to me, it just seems such a waste of time. It's not going to get us from where we are right now to where we need to be. So I've found in group settings that too much time is wasted by people who are focused on assigning blame rather than people who are focused on assessing, okay, this is where we are. given what has happened, how do we get to where we need to get to? So I find that that mindset that I have doesn't work well in many groups because they tend not to focus on the situation at hand. I've had situations like that happen. I mentioned the one when I was in Las Vegas flying to Japan and wasn't able to board the flight. I've had a situation where this one I'll share with you. I had a tour group coming by cruise ship, and one of the advantages of doing my tours here on Saipan and having a web presence is that I'm often aware of when cruise ships are coming to the island years in advance. So I knew this cruise ship was coming at least 2 years in advance, and I booked my van with a rental company at a fully, year and a half in advance. And every now and then I would check in and just make sure that my reservation is still there. And as the date approaches, I check in again and make sure the reservation, everything is cool. I have the vans, I have the vans ready. And on the morning that the cruise ship appeared, I went to the car rental company to pick up the van, and they said, "Sorry, Mr. Goodridge, we have no vans. We have no vans for you." All right. So immediately at that point, I stepped back and I said to my buddy at the time who was helping me, I said, "Okay, let's call so and so," because one of the things I've learned over the years is that I never ever allow myself to create a flawed plan. FLAW, a flawed plan is any plan that relies solely on the finances, the largesse, the approval, or the whim, FLAW, of another person. If you make a plan that requires that this one piece of the plan has to happen or else the other pieces won't happen, then your plan is flawed. I always have a plan B. I always have a backup, even in the course of reserving and reconfirming those vans over the 2 year period. I made sure that I had a backup plan, another vendor who I knew would have vans available, so that when these vans that I had reserved and had been counting on didn't materialize, it didn't make any sense at all to chastise anyone. Didn't make any sense at all to say, but I've been reserving these for the last 2 years. It is what it is. The vans are not there. I need to shift into uh, a different mode in order to solve the issue at hand. So immediately, no argument. I just went and said, "Okay, let's call so and so and get the backup plan," and we implemented that and we went forward. So my point is that I could have spent the next 15 minutes berating the company for messing up my reservation. I could have um, gotten angry. I could have gotten upset. I could have demanded, something, some sort of compensation. But that would not have helped the situation of having 30 passengers who are expecting a tour to on that particular day. So, um, just in terms of the philosophy is the only thing that you have complete control over in life is your response and your reaction to the things you have no control over. And most of the things in life you have no control over, but you can control how you respond. And that is where, in my opinion, your focus needs to be how you respond, how you move forward to the next. To your next goal and your next milestone without wasting time um, railing against the reality of what is. So, a little bit of philosophy. And I find that that will help you in many areas in life, whether it's here on Saipan, whether it's traveling to Saipan, something happens and your flight gets messed up. You can spend time arguing with the check-in, with the people behind the counter. You can spend time arguing and cursing, or you can just simply say, "Okay, the universe is perfect. How do I what's my next step? What do I need to do in order to achieve what it is I want to achieve? There's little to no benefit to spending time arguing and cursing and crying over spilt milk, as it were. All right. So that's about it. Um, it's, all right, David Parker, classic pecking order in order to get ahead in the line. Not sure I understand that one, David, but with that said, Hulk 5141, thanks for sharing your perspective on life on Saipan. I really enjoy your work. Thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. So we're going to wrap up now. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And I will see you guys in the next live stream. And hopefully that will be next week, same time. And if you have any questions, um, email me at walt@discoversaipan. And again, if you're interested in checking out the relocation guide, then you can go to saipanliving.com or waltgoodridge.com. And with that, thank you guys for participating, and I will see you in the next live stream.